There were three major expenses that I avoided, which enabled me to pay off $40,000 in debt and eventually save $50,000. I'm going to tell you what they are. Welcome to Finish First Financially, a channel dedicated to helping millennials and Gen Z to get out of debt and build savings. I'm Goran Radanovic. Back when I cared about status and comfort, the first thing that I went out and bought was a fancy car. And since I couldn't afford it, I took out vehicle finance. So I got my luxury BMW. I thought I was cool, just felt so great. But I had high monthly payments. Then there were also expenses such as gas, repairs and maintenance, licensing, and all these expenses that come along with car ownership. Combined, my car expenses were 30% of my income. And if you think that's nuts, you're right. It was absolutely crazy. And not once did I realize that my car is one of the things that's hindering me from having financial freedom. I just never thought of that. I was so caught up in the moment of driving my fancy vehicle around town. And it seems like I'm not the only one who thinks like that. Because in 2020, the average monthly car payment for a used vehicle in America was $500. It was $700 for a new vehicle. And if you add all the other expenses on top of that, gas, repairs and maintenance, you're looking at close to $1,000 that the average car owner is spending monthly. Now think if you didn't have that expense, you didn't have a car, you'd be able to dedicate at least $1,000 monthly to consumer debt. Probably more than $10,000 every single year that would go towards paying off debt. That would expedite your process of repaying debt and get you to financial freedom as soon as possible. And that's exactly what happened to me. I suppose you could say I was fortunate that my car got repossessed. I couldn't make any payments on it, so the bank came and collected my car. But I still owed the vehicle finance even though I didn't have the car in my possession. And that was the first thing that I paid off. And once I paid off my vehicle finance, I eventually had the cash to buy another car, but I didn't. I saved a tremendous amount of money by not having a vehicle. And that's why I'm such a big proponent of not having a car if it's possible. If you're a remote worker, you don't need a car. If you live in a big city where there's efficient public transport, you also don't need a car. You're going to save a tremendous amount of money by not having car expenses, and you'll be able to dedicate that to other consumer debt to reach financial freedom as soon as possible. Back when I was living paycheck to paycheck, there were lots of things that I wanted to buy, but I couldn't afford them. And I thought my credit card is just a great source for me to buy these things with. And that's exactly what happened. Whatever I wanted, just swipe here, swipe there. And that process continued for several years. I never changed it because my spending paying button was never pressed. And the reason it wasn't pressed is because I never saw physical cash leave my hand. Spending is psychological, and if you use plastic to fund those expenses, the chances are slim that your spending paying button is going to be pressed. But all of that changed for me the day that I paid my rent with cash for the first time. I was counting all of this money and it left my hand, just parted ways with me. And I thought, oh my God, look at how much money I'm spending for something that's not providing any equity. I'm paying off somebody else's property and I'm making them rich. And my spending paying button was pressed, like really hard. I felt a lot of pain just seeing that money part ways with me. And that was the day that I had a mental shift and I started thinking about owning my own property. Everything completely changed when the spending button was pressed. And if you want your spending paying button to be pressed, try funding expenses with cash. That's when it's really going to be activated and you're going to feel pain. And there's even a slight chance that you might make a drastic shift and say, you know what, no more credit cards. I've had enough. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, at the end of the month, I'm going to pay it off. So what's the problem? That's what I used to think as well. And end of month came, I didn't have any money because I'd spent it on other things. I couldn't pay my credit card. But I'll just roll it over, I thought. And then it rolled over into the next month, and then eventually ended up in collections. Another expense that I was fortunate to avoid is student loans. I had funded some of my tuition while my dad funded the majority of it. So I was extremely fortunate to graduate without any student loans. But that's not the case for many people who attend college. And I think one of the reasons is because they're in such a rush to enroll into university after they've graduated, because they see their peers who are enrolling and they don't want to be left behind. A different perspective that you could consider is taking off 3 years after you've graduated high school to work full time. While you're living with your parents, avoiding the rent expense, you're working at a job and with the intent of saving up as much money as possible for college. And it doesn't even have to be at a job that you're planning to study, as long as you've got a full-time income and you're saving the money. Even if you are making $3,000 a month, after 3 years, that's a significant amount of money that you can dedicate to your studies, possibly covering the entire bill. And if you don't cover the entire bill, well, you're going to have a significant portion of that money that you need, and you can make up the shortfall by working weekends while you're studying. So just look at it from a different perspective, and you might have a solution that could work out for you. But as soon as I say that, take 3 years off to work, people think, oh, well, but the people I graduated with, they're going to be enrolling immediately. So they're going to have those 3 years on me. They're going to be ahead of me in life. Those people are highly likely to take out student loans, which they're going to have to repay for the next 10 years after they graduate. You're going to graduate without any student loans. So who's really ahead in life? So those are the 3 expenses that I avoided that helped me to expedite my journey of paying off my debt and to reach financial freedom as soon as possible. And if you need help, you can contact me on finishfirstfinancially@gmail.com. The information will be available in the description below. Get in touch with me so we can have you on the show. We can discuss your finances to lower your expenses so that you can dedicate significant amounts of money to your debt to pay it off as soon as possible. So get in touch with me and let's chat.